Hey, Renter Retires, it's Adam Schroeder here for another podcast, and we are joined once again today by the founder and CEO of Renter Retirement, Zach Lemaster. Zach, how are you today?
Doing great, Adam. We're super excited for today's show. We're going to be talking with Cort Christie, also the founder and CEO of Nevada Corporate Headquarters, NCH, which, as everyone should know at this point, is our partner and our recommendation for anyone looking for proper asset protection. This is who we personally use for all of our own assets, and our recommendation to everyone that's looking for the most adequate structure to protect their investment purchases. So we're going to talk about that and a lot of other exciting things today. So Cort, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Zach. Great to be here. Adam, thank you for putting all this together.
Absolutely. So why don't you tell us a little bit? We've talked with one of your people, one of your asset guys before on the show, but we haven't had the main man himself here. So tell us a little bit about the overall company, kind of what is NCH, what all do y'all do? Because I know it's more than just what we talked with the other Adam, I'll call him, in our other show.
Yeah. The other Adam Kinte, I'm sure laid a lot of it out. He's great. He's been with us almost 15 years. But Nevada Corporate Headquarters was founded on the basis, this is over 30 years ago now. It's amazing how time flies, to help budding entrepreneurs and investors take advantage of Nevada's uniquenesses to protect the assets of whatever it is that they're involved with, whether they were starting a brand new business or buying property, flipping real estate. It was always it came down to just helping those entrepreneurs get away from the risks and liabilities of, what was going on in their work life. And, I had spent some time in California. And California is the most litigious state in the country. And so Nevada was developing these really cool laws to help business owners and investors from anywhere in the country take advantage of these laws by using Nevada LLCs and corporations, and then being able to use those entities, as we call them, back in their home states to protect them. And as our business model evolved over time, we started to integrate the services that small business owners needed, whether it was payroll, tax and accounting services, helping them get access to light funding for the business startup that they needed, helping them develop business credit, which was so important to getting access to bank financing under that business entity's name. All these things that we've put together over the years, and onto business plans for large investors that are trying to raise capital, and even websites for our clients. So it's basically a one-stop shop. Our organization is NCH for entrepreneurs and investors looking to protect themselves as they go out into the world and really limit their exposure to lawsuits.
I love that. And that's so vitally important that you're taking a comprehensive approach, Cort, and not just, hey, let's set up a one-size-fits-all sort of LLC structure for you, right? I mean, there's a lot of things to consider about building a business, about owning rental real estate. And there's multiple ways to do it. I mean, if you're searching online, you go down, 1,000 different rabbit holes of how do you establish the right structure for you. And there's different things to consider as far as where your properties are, how you want to handle your estate planning, what level of investor are you at? Do you have other businesses, other investments and retirement things? I mean, so it's really important to us. And this is why we partnered with you, is you need someone that can guide you through building a comprehensive approach and make sure it's fit. And then also have the support, right? That's a big part of it, is not just establishing an LLC. It's the tax planning part of it and the estate planning and possibly building business credit and lending, like you said, but really someone that's working with you in a cohesive manner alongside our team. That way, when they own the investment, someone is coaching them and mentoring them on the best way to do that. And that's an ongoing relationship that you build with those clients, right? You're not just setting up the structure and letting them, go out and do their investing. You were always there to assist them as their business goals and plans are dynamic and evolve, right?
Absolutely. And it's a long-term relationship. The NCH family, both, we've got over 100 employees that work for Nevada Corporate Headquarters. And then you think of the active clients that we've got over 25,000 active clients that have been working with us for years. And it's all the time I'm seeing orders that come through, and they get highlighted, especially to my desk when, we've got a 20-year-old client or a 25-year-old client that is coming back to buy another LLC, to engage us for taxes, to get a website built, whatever it is. They keep coming back because of the level of support and what we're doing for them, and the fact that we've got the integration between a legal services team, tax services team, on top of the asset protection team and business formation structure of what we do. And our job is to make it easy for that investor to go out and do what you're teaching them to do and helping them do. And so they don't have to think about, well, what about that little license? Or what about the IRS that sent me this notice? And what do I do with all this stuff? We're the place you can pick up the phone and call and get answers, and we're going to know how to handle it because it's what we do every day.
So I want to ask one thing that you said that y'all get asked all the time, and that is, when it comes to what y'all do, there are websites out there like LegalZoom, like we talked about before we started, that you can do things with, and you can, create. You can technically create an LLC on LegalZoom. How good it is obviously up for debate. But when is somebody in need of something like what NCH does, and when do websites like that actually make sense for people?
Great question, Adam. There's a number of websites, not just LegalZoom, that are out there to do business formation services. And if you're a pro and you've been doing this for years, that might be a wonderful solution for you. But if you're looking for a support team under one roof that can be experts to help and guide you through your real estate acquisition, the portfolio of that, a team that can help you do some planning for the next generation. Like, how do I make sure that if something happens to me, that it gets to my children, my heirs? Who do I want it to go to? And so we integrate all that together when you're ready to have that next conversation. A LegalZoom or a digital provider that's online is going to be able to get you basically just exactly what you've ordered, an LLC sent over to you. But then you're going to get a bunch of documentation and paperwork. You're not going to be sure about what you need to do with the state, for instance. Just filing an LLC in most states triggers letters from the business taxation department, triggers letters from sales tax division, triggers potentially county licensing requirements. There's a series of things that happens. And a lot of our clients just don't want to learn all this stuff. They want to find the next property. They want to grow their portfolios and focus on that. So if they're looking for somebody that is a specialist to handhold them and work with them very closely, and then anytime they have a question, pick up the phone and we can open up their account and see exactly what their strategy was, what they were trying to do. And then we've got experts that have been working with real estate investors for 30 years that just get it so well. And on top of that, there's documentation that we find most of the time, even with, unfortunately, law firms that are working with, that have worked with our clients in the past. And they come into our office and they say, boy, I formed this corporation or LLC, and here's all the paperwork I got. And we say, well, nothing's finished. Nothing's completed. You might have registered it. That's one step. But now the paperwork that goes along with it, minutes, resolutions, documentation that actually gives that LLC or corporation life, where you've signed and dated the ownership interests, the stock certificates, the operating agreement. Most people do none of this. And so if I'm a lawyer and I ever want to go after, a small business owner and an investor, I just have all that documentation sent over to me for review. And I find out that most of these folks don't do it right. And what we make sure is everybody has all that paperwork filled out, completed. We literally have a phone call with every client to go through their entire business record book that we send to them, make sure their ownership certificates are filled out, make sure they've got access to banking documentation so they know when they go into their favorite bank that they literally have the operating agreement ready to go. They have a resolution authorizing them to open the bank. I mean, a lot of this stuff is probably going to be foreign to the listeners, but what they need to understand is there's more than just going online and registering an LLC with some provider, that you're going to have a lot of questions. And if you don't do it right, you're opening yourself up for personal liability. And the whole point of forming that LLC or corporation is for that liability protection. But it's not just done once the name is simply registered with the state.
I love that you said that, because to your point, yes, you can go up and open up an LLC really anywhere, get your EIN number and have that. But like, what's the purpose of that, and how useful is it actually going to be in the instance that, well, you need that LLC and you need that liability protection? It's so important, Cort, I think, to have that comprehensive team, just again, to support throughout that entire process, because real estate investors, our clients and investors, are trying to build a business. That's what you're doing when you're buying real estate. And there's a lot of aspects that go into that, especially when you're talking about diversifying across different parts of the country. And, there's different state laws and things to be important, that you need to build a network to be real successful. This is important to have your investment advisors, your real estate professionals on the CPA tax side, your lenders, insurance providers, property managers. You need to have a collective team of professionals to help you build a successful business. And that's why we, love working with you guys, is because you are able to provide that comprehensive approach and actually get on the phone and talk with someone. You don't charge for consultations. Of course, if someone wants to set up an LLC or something along those lines, there's going to be costs associated with that. However, people are not having to pay a CPA or an attorney $300 to $400 an hour just to answer their questions, which may not go anywhere. And so that's a very important thing for rent to retirement clients. You've made it available for people to get on the phone, have multiple conversations, do some strategic planning at no cost to the investor to decide if this is even the path for them. And if it is, then you can proceed with setting up the appropriate structure. So, and you guys have done, you're to the point where you can fulfill needs for large and small businesses, even someone first getting started. If they're buying their first rental property and they want to know if they, need protection on it and the best way to establish that, or how to plan for the future, you take the time to work with those individual investors as well as larger companies. I think you guys founded, was it Rockstar or Monster? Which one of those,
yeah,
right?
Rockstar Energy.
Right.
Yeah, it was about 20 years ago. They've since been purchased for over $1 billion. But Rockstar Energy came into our offices to form a Nevada corporation in 2002, I believe it was.
So many real estate investors, as well as large scale companies, are working with you to fulfill their business and tax needs for a reason. And that's why when you get on the phone with someone from NCH and they're all hyped up, it's because they're drinking 10 Rockstars a day. But,
well, and I think, you bring up a couple of good points, right? Because you're not going to get that one-on-one personal consultation just for you to decide whether this makes sense or not. We're not here to sell you. We're here to help support you. And Zach, with your team at Rent to Retire, we've got a great relationship. We understand exactly what you're teaching, what you're doing, what you're offering to the people that are coming through the door there. And we'll sit down, we'll spend as much time as they need to understand why you might want to have these structures put in place, how it benefits you, and then it's up to you to make the decision if you want to move forward. Another thing that's interesting during our time that we're in, and obviously with fun, crazy COVID going on around, we have this great relationship where people, first of all, banking. You go into a bank today, you have to have an appointment to get anything done. The staffing's not there. Everybody understands this. And so one of the nice parts that we were just having some meetings on earlier today was on our relationship with our banks that we work with. And Bank of America specifically, we do a ton of work with, but we've got it dialed in where customers that come through from Rent to Retire to us literally get introduced to a Bank of America representative. We send them all the necessary documents on our end, the tax ID number, the operating agreement, everything that the bank needs, where you never have to set up an appointment to go into the bank. And it literally takes an hour when you walk into the bank. I've opened many, many accounts. And unfortunately, you get the representative that's never done a business bank account. They've done consumer bank accounts, and it takes even longer. And we've got this dialed in where I was looking at our numbers last month. We did over 500 bank accounts with Bank of America in December. So, I know that process makes their lives so easy. And it's the integration that we provide, rent to retirement investors that make life easy. And if I'm a doctor, the last thing I want to do is go schedule an hour to go sit down at my local branch and go through this process. Why not just work with a bank that understands how to do it right digitally, like we've got set up?
So do you think Nevada, I mean, was it just kind of a response to being next to California that it kind of created these kind of laws? And also, it's been good so far. Like, what concerns, if any, are there about future legislation changes that could potentially mess up, any protections that are currently there? I mean, obviously that could be the case anywhere, but what makes you comfortable with the situation in your state?
Yeah, that's a great question, Adam. You never know what the future is going to hold, right?
Right.
Some new party, new initiatives could come in and somebody could change things. And we see that, but we keep our finger on it very closely for the past 30 years. Actually, our legal teams and our lobbyists have been working hand in hand with the state bar and the Secretary of State in Nevada and it's the Judiciary Committee that does all the laws. And if people are into how government functions, where we're writing the legislation, getting it to them, supporting them, testifying on it, and making sure that Nevada's got the best set of laws to protect business owners and investors. So we're very close to it. Nevada's legislature only meets every 2 years. And so we have lobbyists that are on staff that are working there, paying attention to everything that are going on, but more importantly, proactively looking at ways of improving laws and the efficiency in the state of Nevada. So nothing's going to happen without us being close to it and knowing about it. And we've been very fortunate that the state generates a lot of revenue off of business registrations, especially for people that are outside of Nevada that take advantage of filing an entity here and then using that LLC in another state for real estate investing. And so they understand that they don't want to screw that up. Nevada doesn't have any income taxes, no business income taxes, no personal income taxes. We make our money off gaming, obviously. We make our money off hotel and car rentals. There's some mining, that there's actually taxes in the mining sector, but we're the 5th largest revenue source for the state of Nevada, what they call the Commercial Recordings Division, which is in the Secretary of State's office. The other thing, Adam, that makes it kind of fun is I had an idea yesterday for some marketing from the Secretary of State's office, and I was texting with our Secretary of State and asking her some direction on who's the right person to contact within her team. And I had a response from the Secretary of State in about 5 minutes for the phone number and the person to reach out to. You can't do that in large states. We're a state with just over 3 million people. And because of the political connections and the work that we do, I've got those kind of relationships. So I'm right there making sure that we're doing things to improve stuff. I think you asked the question though originally about the origins of all this. Where did it all begin and why was Nevada even positioned like this? And I think you have to remember Nevada is really an innovative place. They took some desert and turned it into something amazing in southern Nevada and even in northern Nevada. Both in Reno, and in Las Vegas and Lake Tahoe, they've taken something, tamed it, and made it something special. And in order to attract people from other states, they allow a lot of things to happen, And we know gaming's, very deep, and the expansion of sports betting and everything that's now national and digital has grown things even more than ever before. So it's incredible what's actually gone on. And our state, with its unique history, has also said, we want to make sure that we're protecting things. We want to make sure that everything that we're involved with is not going to be taken away by trial lawyers, like in other states that are actually one of the most powerful lobbying groups that are out there. Trial lawyers are aggressively trying to chip away at laws in every state to make sure that they can sue and they can pierce through business entities and they can go after individuals who maybe have gotten in their purview and go after. We make sure the trial lawyers stay put in their place and aren't changing things. So Nevada is just a unique place, and it'll continue to be for many, many years.
It's very clear that it's business and tax friendly, and there's no secret that there are many corporations and businesses at a high level, as well as many real estate investors coming to Nevada to open up their businesses. I mean, and the newer investor could be confused on, well, if I'm opening up in Nevada, what does that mean if I'm buying a property in Ohio, Missouri, Florida, whatever the case is? That's the central LLC. And I won't get too deep into, the specifications of how the process works, but you have, your core Nevada LLC, and where the business is formed, and then you register to do businesses in these other states where you have the property ownership, and that provides a good level of protection. And that's a whole idea, is like when you actually need it, what level of protection are you actually going to have? And you'll get 1,000 different answers and opinions out there when you're doing research online. And it's hard. I mean, we are partnered with you and personally using NCH for a reason. We understand this may not be the right fit for everybody, but I would encourage everybody, regardless of your situation, to at least have a consultation, spend some time. I guarantee you will walk away from that and have learned something, and that you can apply to your own life and your own business endeavors, which is the important thing. Cort, I think let's just touch real briefly on not getting too deep down the rabbit hole with potential legislation, but why would a real estate investor even need to set up an LLC to protect their property? I mean, we want to separate out the property from other properties, property from their personal businesses and other assets, and also vice versa to protect the asset. But can you just, in your opinion, talk about why would a real estate investor need an LLC in the first place?
Yeah, and that's a great question that comes up all the time. I bought my personal residence, right? And I didn't put it in any type of entity. Why would I need to put a new investment that I was getting involved with, not my personal residence, into anything? I could just buy it in my name. And so that's the question. And the question is, the answer to that is, what can happen when you own real estate? When you have contractors working on your property? What can happen when you've got tenants in your property? What kind of liabilities and risks go on in business? And the horror stories that do happen are insane. And we've been dealing with it for so many years after forming hundreds of thousands of business entities. And about half of our clients are real estate investors. So we've seen it all. When a lawsuit gets triggered, and for whatever reason, it could be a neighbor dispute, could be a tenant got hurt in a property, could be a contractor made a mistake, caused some problems that you're in a condo association or something and affected other unit owners, and it's really the big injuries that can cause a lot of the deeper wounds that can occur as far as lawsuits go. And so it's to mitigate the lawsuit risk that you have. And litigation's real. I mean, it's how people expect to make money, either the lottery or a lawsuit today, especially tenants, who are disgruntled or unhappy with their landlord being that entity or that owner. Now you've got a buffer between, you and that litigation. And that's what the LLC is designed to do, is to put up a wall between you, the owner of that LLC, and anyone that might be doing business with contractors, tenants, anyone who's working with you. So it comes down to that. It's the best insurance that you can possibly get by having an LLC. And Nevada just happens to be the best state in the country that says we won't allow anybody to go after the owner of the LLC unless there was criminal activity going on, fraud. And so it's got the highest threshold, as we say. So we always say, why get average insurance? Why not get the best insurance that you possibly can? So that investor who's thinking, well, what's the big deal? I could just put it in my name. It's like, no, that's not how you want to hold it. If I'm any high profile person, doctor, lawyer, business owner that wants to invest in real estate, I want a buffer between my investments and the risk that comes with those investments in real estate. And I also want to achieve a little level of privacy too. So when somebody wants to pull up county records and see who owns that house down on, Main Street, now all of a sudden it's not you, the doctor, it's an LLC, and it provides a buffer. And people are saying, okay, this is a sophisticated investor. It's not just your average investor that might be out there. And we're not talking about spending much money either to protect the investment. You put a lot of money, you bought a valuable asset a piece of real estate, let's make sure that we make sure that it's there forever for you and nobody's going to ever take it away. And there's also, as you mentioned briefly, what we call reverse litigation. That let's say that person that does own that LLC ever has a problem personally, and somebody wants to go after their personal assets. Could be a business partner issues, could be divorce issues, could be who knows what. The LLC is also designed to allow that owner to separate their personal interest from their business interest. And if there's litigation against me and I'm an owner of an LLC and it's a Nevada LLC, they don't allow what they call reverse piercing, which means they can go a lawsuit through me, then goes to my personal assets, my LLC. So it cuts you off at both ends, and it makes sure that what you're trying to protect gets protected from the outside world that might want to go after you or the entity of the real estate itself, or anybody that might have a squabble with me unrelated to the investment can't go take that investment as a judgment. So powerful, powerful tools to make sure that you're protected, that you have privacy, that you can go off and make sure that you focus on your primary business and not have to think about the what ifs that go along with real estate investing. So there's just a lot to it about giving individual investors the peace of mind of knowing that they're protected.
So, Cort, one of the things that you mentioned at the first, and one of the things we get asked about a lot is time. And, it doesn't take a ton of time for people to manage their real estate properties. You mentioned, with the way y'all work with Bank of America, your time in the bank is pretty negligible. But when it comes to the year-to-year, maintaining of your LLC, how much time are you realistically talking about investing in it? Like, are you having to have meetings? Are you having to, how much documentation are you writing down? How much of a time investment are we talking?
Yeah, great question. I think the time investment depends on obviously the complexity of your investment. So if I'm going to buy one home and then another home and another home, it's going to take a little more time. Usually with a lot of our clients that might have just 1 to 3 properties that they own, it's not a ton of time working with that business entity. So that business entity every year is required to register in their home state annually. And you also need to have a registered agent, which is a legal address that you can utilize. We make the process very, very easy. We just essentially have either digital links that we send out to our clients. If they don't want to interact with us and they're busy in their lives, they click a link, they go through it, they fill out a couple intake forms that we have that take about maybe 10 minutes to go through. And every year, that's all you need to do on our end. If you prefer to do it over the phone, we do it over the phone. We actually renew you, and we can help with that in your home state and in Nevada. And we go through and take care of all of it. So, the time is very short with us. The next thing that you got to be thinking about is every business entity, like an LLC that you would form, has requirements for filing taxes. Now, depends on the complexity of the structure that you want to put together, but a lot of our clients just have real estate held in what we call disregarded entities, where it's literally just flows through to their personal tax return, and they don't have a separate tax return. But if you have a series of investments and you're trying to separate out the risk from those, we also have what we call kind of a parent LLC that manages your structure, and that entity is usually a subchapter S LLC. And in that case, you would have a tax return that's due every March 15th, a month ahead of when your personal taxes are due. And in that case, you just have to compile documentation, but you have to do this with whether you own the property separately and outside of an LLC, owned it personally, or whether you had an LLC that held it. And so then there's going to be some document prep to put together to work with your tax provider. And what's nice about working with our tax providers is they've got so many real estate investors that they've been working with over the years that they've made it very easy. They understand what to ask for right up front. So there's not a lot of back and forth. And then they get those tax returns done very rapidly.
And not every tax and legal team is going to be familiar with what the investor's goals are. and know how to accomplish that on an ongoing basis over time as you expand your portfolio. I always try to hit that point home and solidify that with any of our clients, is that when you're building your network and your team, you need people on your team that, first of all, understand your goals and are going to help you accomplish those goals and give you the path to follow. So many attorneys and CPAs that I've dealt with in legal teams in the past, and a lot of them just tell you no, right? Or they're not familiar. They may not even be familiar with real estate. Is that really someone you should be going to for tax advice and legal structure if they don't own real estate? If they don't work with a significant amount of real estate investors? So it's important that they understand what you're trying to accomplish and give you the guide to do that, and then stay engaged with you long term as you expand those goals. That's a very important thing. So I think that's something that everyone should be conscious of, because you can, setting up things when I was just getting started trying to do it on my own, and then tax time comes around, it's like, what the hell am I even doing? And stuff is, I'm getting delinquency letters, and it's like, this form needs to be filled out. First of all, I hated that, nor did I know what I was doing. But there's the ongoing maintenance of it that you need to be aware of. And that's why it's important to have a team that knows how to accomplish those things, so you can go out and focus on the bigger picture, running your business, expanding your portfolio, and doing those things. So I think that's a very important point.
Absolutely. And you're going to get those letters, Zach. You still get them today, right? But I get those letters, the same thing from the IRS. I take a picture of it on my phone and I attach it to the email, send it right off to our tax professionals, and they're dealing with it. They take care of it. I'm like, great, because I do not want to know the ins and outs of, what needs to be put together to get that tax return, sent off to the IRS. I just want to know that I have the support team to take care of it that understands what my goals and objectives are.
I love it. Just put it on your team, your professionals. That's why they're there. Take care of it, right?
Yeah, because your investors are all busy. They've got many things going on in their lives. They've got their families, and they don't need hassle, right? They just want to diversify. They want to take advantage of the opportunities in the real estate market that are so great. And so you think about, when you're going to launch into owning real estate, investment real estate, there's anxiety, there's some stress involved in it, but to know that they're dealing with an organization like yours that's really refined it and made it easy. And then in addition to that, you've got partners like NCH that have made it very easy to hold those properties in an LLC and get the tax work done simply, and they can focus on their lives and their other businesses outside of their investments. That's invaluable.
Yeah, it kills me sometimes, and I will be completely honest, I waited a long time, like in terms of gathering properties, before I did my asset protection. But to hear people talk about the price of getting their entity set up, and I'm like, you realize you're talking about an asset that you probably spent anywhere in the $30,000 to $75,000 or $80,000 range to acquire, and you're not willing to pay a little bit of money to insure that asset forever. Now, I know I tell people and kind of recommend, sometimes when people are concerned, maybe you don't need it for your very first one, definitely talk to somebody and figure out if you do. But it's like, why wouldn't you just spend a little bit of money and protect that $30,000 to $80,000 investment you just made on your property?
And that's also on top of that, Adam, I'm glad you brought that point up, because I wanted to hit home about timing of things, and also just in general, what are we looking at with LLCs? I mean, we're talking a few grand of an LLC, right? It's an inevitable cost, everybody. It's something that is absolutely necessary. You don't want to be an investor that, you build this large portfolio and it's all tied back to you. That can turn you upside down in a wrong event. And that's what we want to avoid, right? So, but it's really about, if someone is listening to this and they're saying, well, shit, I got, a ton of properties. I haven't done anything. Like, that's okay. You can still do this now, right? If you're planning to buy a property and you want to do this stuff on the front end, you can still do that. The timing is, when is the best time to buy real estate? Now. When is the best time to have an LLC if you haven't already? Right now. These are important things that you will need to do at some point in time. The investors that are very successful and are growing their large portfolios, everyone has their LLC structure set up appropriately. They are costs that are also business expense, right? For tax purposes, something that is necessary. Just get it out of the way, get it done, there's not a lot of ongoing maintenance costs once it's actually set up, and then you can, sleep well at night. What do you think, Cort?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, everybody's got to be considering to go down this path, because one property leads to the next, to the next, to the next, right? And why wouldn't you want to make sure that it's all done right, put together in a simple way that positions you for the next thing that you have? And I was even thinking, as you were talking, Zach, about just the small things that go up for real estate investors. You've got a tenant, they're frustrated, they decide they want to try to figure out who the actual owner is. You've got a management company potentially in the middle, but they're not, they're frustrated with something they didn't get that, they wanted. And they start trying to figure out who the owner is. They're digging up that information I mentioned in the county records. But, if you want some buffer between you and your tenants, and you've got professionals also helping you manage that property, you don't want your tenants calling you. Why make it easy for them to even find you? The whole idea of having these investments is so they can grow, kick off cash flow, give you depreciation to minimize your taxes, and ultimately, they're going to go up in value, and you're going to buy more of it. So I just, individuals who aren't quite sure how this works, I say just take advantage of a free consultation with us. Our professionals are so well trained to understand all areas of this in all 50 states, and they're going to be on the phone trying to lay out a plan for you where you can choose to go with that plan or not, but at least take advantage of this free opportunity so you can sleep better at night, as you mentioned. Education,
that's what it's about. At the very least, you got to take those action steps as you're doing your due diligence. You're learning. This is a part of a learning process, and NCH has been gracious enough to make that available to all of our clients. You say you're a rent-to-retirement client, and they will, take extra care of you, spend extra time with you. They're not going to charge you those astronomical amounts, and I think everyone will walk away learning something from that, regardless of what you end up doing, which is the important thing. It's all about education.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Cort, I want to thank you for your time today. We really appreciate being graced by the founder of the Nevada corporate headquarters. Is there anything that we haven't asked you that you want to touch on today?
No, I just think that one thing that's important on the tax side is there's so many benefits to minimize taxes. So many of your clients that you work with are paying a ton in taxes, and some simple strategies that we can help them with by utilizing the right type of business structure with the right type of tax election. That might be foreign to many people, but there's some strategies for taxation can go so far to minimize the taxes that they're paying, even on their ordinary positions, jobs, careers that they've got right now, that we could spend hours boring the heck out of the listeners, getting knee deep into all those strategies. But I think I just want everyone to know that, real estate investing is one of the best kept tax secrets that are out there. And there's so many things that go beyond the obvious of what you see when you buy a piece of real estate. It's really about the creation of wealth and the minimization of taxes that you gain at the end of the day.
And then the preservation of wealth through having the right LLC, right?
That's right.
Cort, we're gonna require you to come back on with us and do a deep dive into taxes, especially as we're around tax season. But that's, as Adam knows, that's my biggest thing, is talking about taxes with LLC. It's a very real thing. If you buy enough real estate professionals, so on and so forth, you can wipe out all your taxes and have those forgiven forever and pass it on for generational wealth. That's what wealthy people are doing, and there's so many different advantages. So, just a simple fact of working with the right people to guide you in that path, that's going to be worth, a ton just in value by setting up the right structure and learning about that. So I love that you mentioned that. We're going to have you back to talk about that more. Cort, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks, Zach. Thanks, Adam.
Yeah, absolutely. And to all our listeners, if you want to schedule a call with Cort's team, head on over to renttoretirement.com. Click on the About page. They are one of our team members. You can click on it right there to schedule a call with them. Really appreciate your time, Cort. To all our listeners, if you have any questions you want to ask us or anything you want us to ask Cort in the future, email it to podcasts@renttoretirement.com. That's podcasts@renttoretirement.com. Would really appreciate you going on your podcast platform and leaving us a review for the show. Let us know what you think. We'd greatly appreciate that. You can check us out, as always, at renttoretirement.com. Like I said, you can find Cort there. You can find our inventory. You can schedule a call with us as well to talk about your real estate strategy. Really appreciate you spending your time listening to us. Really appreciate your time today, Cort. We'll see y'all on the next episode.
Thanks for watching the Rent to Retirement YouTube channel. Check out some of our other videos, like this one, or this one here.